So how do you actually achieve financial independence? Everybody's talking about financial independence and how you can do this or that or the other, and they're just trying to sell you a bunch of crap. Some might even be here on YouTube, and yes, I sell you stuff. But guess what? I'm not gonna offer anything for you to buy, but I can tell you how I did it twice and how many of my own clients have done it too, because this is actually replicatable. This is actually doable, and here's how. All right, so how do you achieve financial independence? First and foremost, financial independence, I know some people have different stuff. I actually had a financial advisor try to convince me one point that financial independence, anybody who's got a job and can pay their bills is financially independent. He said, because you have enough income to pay your bills, that means you're independent. You're not dependent upon anybody else. I said, that's true, but that's not what people are thinking when they think financial independence. They think, how can I not have to keep working so that my investments instead will pay an income, or some income stream can pay for me without me having to work for it, right? How can I get my money to work for me instead of me always working for that money? That to me is financial independence. More specifically, if you go to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, his definition of getting out of the rat race, which is financial independence, is you have enough passive income to pay for your monthly bills, right? You have enough money coming in to pay for that each and every month. But how do you actually achieve that? Because I've heard a lot of people talk about it. Heck, even Rich Dad, Poor Dad talks about it all the time. And he talks about some of the things he did, but you really don't know how to do anything from that book, do you? Great inspiration, great principles. Don't get me wrong, I love that book. But it lacks the actual way to do it. And just so you know, if you go look online for all of Robert Kiyosaki's programs he sells, it's a bunch of BS. It's all these other companies selling in his name, and they're like, hey, you can invest in the stock market. How do I know? Because I actually worked for one of those companies that sold his stuff, and even Kiyosaki wouldn't go blow his money in the stock market. Even though he's gone a little bit tinfoil hat crazy lately, he still wouldn't do that, right? That's why you don't want to listen to his crypto advice lately too. So anyways, how do you really achieve financial independence, right? How do you get that money coming in? Most people are told, put your money in mutual funds, right? There's that FIRE movement out there, financially independent, retire early, you hear about, right? I joined the Facebook group. They booted me out because apparently they don't want people that actually did it to be in the group. Especially when I said, hey, you guys trying to do it early based on the real simulations right now, not the stuff you heard from 30 years ago information, but right now, you'd have to only pull out 2% a year, not 4% rule per year that you guys have been teaching. And they booted me out. Can you believe it? Because I just happened to drop some truth bombs on them. They're like, no, we don't want to do that. We depress people. Yeah, because you're investing in the stock market and mutual funds, it is kind of depressing because it's reality, right? That's why I left being a financial advisor over 20 years ago. Because what did I learn? I learned that people weren't becoming financially free, let alone financially independent. They couldn't get there, right? They didn't have enough money to really have more than enough income to pay for their bills and then some. They had to have Social Security coming in to bail them out. They were needing the government to keep paying Social Security, which, by the way, for me, at the tail end of Generation X, I would hope and pray that something like that would be there. But most of us Xers don't believe it's going to be there in the future anyways. We already know it's going to go bankrupt in the next 4 to 10 years if they don't do something right now, right? So you can't count on it. You need to be financially independent so that you can control your own future and destiny, not hope that the government can bail out when the mutual funds don't perform enough. So here's the thing. If you want to have financial independence today using mutual funds, you should only be pulling off 3% if you're at retirement age. If you're young, 2% a year. That means whatever you want to live on per year, if you're in your 60s, you got to multiply it by about 30 times. If you want to live on $100,000 a year as a 60-year-old, you need to have $3 million in those mutual funds or retirement accounts. If you don't have it yet, you're not there. If you're younger, like in your 50s or younger, it's more like 2%. That means you need to have 50 times. So if you want a $100,000 a year lifestyle today, you got to have $5 million. And just so you're aware, for those of you that think, okay, well, I want $100,000 a year, but I'm not quite there yet. Okay, $5 million, but maybe I can be there in 20 years. Well, guess what? In 20 years, you're gonna have to at least double that number because of inflation. You gotta get to at least $10 million. If you start doing the math, this is when it gets depressing. This is what started really putting this chink in my armor as a financial advisor because I was bought in. My whole goal is in my 20s, I said, if I just save up enough and I'm cheap enough and I make sure that I don't buy anything expensive and I don't enjoy life at all and I cancel those Disneyland trips forever while my kids grow up. But by my 40s, if I'm cheap enough, I can save up $2 million in my mutual funds and then live on 3%, which is $60,000 a year. Because in the early 2000s, $5,000 a month was about the same lifestyle as about $10,000 to $12,000 a month today. So $5,000 a month felt amazing because we only need about half of that at the time to live on as a family. Well, guess what? Inflation sucks, okay? So that was my whole plan. But then what blew my mind is that, again, it just didn't work. And remember, I was trying to go off 3%. In the 40s, I probably should have said 2.5 at least. But again, I was focused on that. But nowadays, if I wanted that same kind of lifestyle that I was thinking then, say if I want 12,000 a month, say it's 150,000 a year, give or take, right? Well, 150,000, and really, if it's early retirement, because I am in my 40s now, 150,000, say times 40. I'll even do that. I'll even be nice to you guys. 150,000 a year times 40 gives you $6 million you got to save up. So where I thought originally I had to have $2 million, now you have to have $6 million to have the same freaking lifestyle that I was hoping to have before. Get it? You see the problem here? But when it comes to passive income, what we talk about now is you can create passive income now. You create financial independence now instead of later. This is what I did. When I quit being a financial advisor, started looking at things like real estate investing and other alternative investments, and realized it wasn't about accumulating money and saving it, but instead, how do I get that money to pay me income now? It was always about the income. It's about acceleration of money, not accumulation of money. And when I started to do that, I realized, wait a minute, if I have, say, $100,000, normally if I'm pulling out 3% a year or 2%, right, I'm living on $2,000 or $3,000 a year, right? But if I have the same 100,000 and that pays me 1% a month because I'm lending my money to a real estate investor, I'm now making $1,000 a month on that $100,000. That's way better. That's $12,000 a year versus $2,000 or $3,000 a year, right? And I started to have hope. I started to see that financial independence and freedom was even possible. That's why I was able to do it when I was 28, because I didn't have to have that much money to make an extra $3,500 a month. I just had to have some money that was just working harder for me. And that was the difference, right? Is that I was able to take that money and get it to working harder. This is what shocks people. I had a woman that was a health coach. She says, I've only got $250,000. My financial advisor says I need to keep saving money for at least the next 10 years to get to my goal. I said, well, what's your goal? She's like, $2,000 a month. It's like $2,000 a month, I'd be financially independent. I'm single, divorced. I'm okay with $2,000 a month. I said, awesome. Well, your financial advisor says you have to do what now? She's like, well, I have to keep saving for at least 10 years. And that's assuming the market does well. I said, that's true, because based on my calculations, what he's probably been calculating, you have to take your $250,000 and turn it to $1 million in the next 10 years. You got to quadruple your money. At that point, she got really depressed. It was even worse when I said, oh, and you have to pay taxes too. That wasn't fun. And so I said, instead, but look at this. What if you take your $250,000 and you invest it into a real estate backed investment, something that's a little bit more stabler than trying to go gamble in the stock market. Real estate backed investment, and they pay you 10% a year. What do you make per year on $250,000 at 10%? She said, $25,000. I said, exactly. Which is also how much per month? Just over $2,000 a month. Right. You could actually be financially independent this year. She's like, are you kidding me? No. Are you lying to me? Are you serious? Is that really possible? I said, we do it every day. Like, yes, it's possible. In fact, I'm probably under-promising you a little bit. You could do better. I just don't want to over-promise anything. She's like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. And then the weekend, she goes talks to her girlfriends who were all about the mutual funds, and they listen to Dave Ramsey, because that's a good way to stay broke, is listen to Dave Ramsey. And they did. And guess what happened? She came back and said, nah, I don't believe it. Here's what's crazy, guys. I had another client with also $250,000 did the same thing. He went and did that, and he even had interruptions in his work, right? Like the work shut down with 2020 and different things going on. So he even had interruptions. He couldn't save all the time. But over the last 6 years, since that time, he actually got it from that $250,000 to worth now almost $700,000 of equity that's in real estate properties that now cash flow him almost $4,000 a month. She could have been in the same position as him, but yet she couldn't believe it to be true because she thought it has to be mutual funds. It has to be what my financial advisor says, because that's the only way he gets paid, which is why he doesn't ever recommend real estate investing, because they're just freaking salesmen in suits that sell you financial products all the time. Break free of that. That's what this channel is to do. If you're here, subscribe to this channel right now. If you want to learn how to create real financial independence and ways to do it, there's other videos here talking about some of those specific strategies. Be sure to subscribe, like this video, and keep watching right now.